Morning, Christo.
Nice to have you this morning, as always, talking about some of the big royal stories. I don't know why it always feels royal on a Sunday. Why is that?
I have no idea. Probably the times when stories get put into the Sunday papers or whatever, and it's people can ruminate and cogitate on the latest royal, well, in some cases, problems or some good news. And I think from a royal perspective this week, with the carol service and seeing the Princess of Wales going to be part of the state visit, there are some probably good news from that respect, and that Kate's recovery is still continuing, albeit slowly, but at least there does seem to be some good news on that front.
Well, we have heard some nice news from the Princess of Wales this week, and she's given a message ahead of her carol concert next week, and she's expected to appear at that, right?
Absolutely. She's expected to appear at part of the state visit from the Emir of Qatar, which I think is on Tuesday, but the carol concert at Westminster Abbey, big thing, a huge number of attendees, is on December the 6th. It then gets broadcast on Christmas Eve on ITV. So it's now very much part of the Prince and Princess of Wales's sort of Christmas build-up, and particularly the Princess of Wales, who very much part of the organising. And we know that they're going to have, well, Chris Hoy is going to be there. There's going to be other people from some of the people involved in the Southport incident, you know, awful scenes in Southport. They will be attending. And obviously, Prince of Wales, I think, is going to be doing a reading. There are various people will be singing. So it's a great sort of Christmas occasion in terms of what the Prince and Princess of Wales doing. And what she wants to do is it's a way of her thanking. And this letter that's come out, it does suggest that this has been if you sort of read between the lines, you feel that this has been a really difficult year for her, and that you know, the word love is something that is mentioned, I think, 11 times in the letter. You get a feeling that she's needed a lot of love this year to help her through.
Yes, love, not fear, she says, the importance of it, how much we need each other in spite of our differences. Love is the light that can shine bright even in our darkest times. And the meaning of Christmas to her is, above all else, encouraging us to turn to love, not fear. She also praises those who care for others, saying gentle words or a receptive ear, an arm around an exhausted shoulder, or silently being by someone's side. She also says that Christmas is a time to slow down and reflect on the deeper things that connect us all, and to live our lives with an open heart. I mean, is that seems quite deep, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think that she's needed that love and people who cared for her and helped her, and she's wanted that. Remember, it's now about it was just after Christmas, and of course we got news that she was ill. So it's coming up to a sort of year anniversary. So Christmas, you know, when we last saw her in a sort of on Christmas Day, she had all the children around her. It then obviously transpired over the next couple of weeks or so that she became ill, and since then it's been a long road back and through that time, and you get a sense that she has needed all the help, and this letter just is a general excuse me, a reflection of what she's felt, but more importantly, what she's learned. Feels it's a general life lesson, and the sentiments of the letter are very, very apt for this time of year, a very Christmas Christian message.
And without wanting to go into the actual details of her illness, of which we know very little other than obviously it was treatment for some form of cancer. Some reports have said precancerous cells, some reports have said it was more serious. But I think in general, perhaps we haven't been aware of quite how ill she's been. I get that impression from the words, from the fact that we haven't seen much of her. I think that perhaps we have been, and I don't know this for a fact, I'm not saying this because I know of anything, I'm just saying it as someone who is an onlooker. It feels to me like we have been perhaps protected from quite how ill she's been, which of course makes her road to recovery, and the fact that she is now appearing at things such a nicer piece of news.
Yeah, and it's very much a controlled environment that she's coming back in. And then when we look at the King, he's had a much more public-facing role, even going through his cancer treatment. It's been obviously easier to manage, and the king wants to be out there as much as he can. And you have to say fair play to him, and he's doing as much as he can that the doctors will allow him to. It doesn't seem recently that he's slowed down much. But in the Princess of Wales's case, it is a much more complicated scenario. I, again, like many, do not know the exact details, but you can just sense that the way this has been managed, it hasn't been an easy road back. She needs the time to get the feel confident to go back out there. And because it's all right when you've got, so I suppose, very much controlled state occasions. And I suppose the state visit is one of those examples. This carol service is very much on her terms. When she's out and about, it's much more difficult. And I think that's how she's got to deal with that, is when she can get more into what she used to do on a regular basis.
I completely agree. I think that the royals are so conscious of what they cost, what the value for money is, the public perception of them, all of these sorts of things. So without question, they would want her to be out there, she would want to be out there. So the fact that she has not been, you're absolutely right, I think implies that it has been a much more difficult road that perhaps that we have been informed of. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that, because I've seen a lot of people online, and of course online can be a bit of a cesspit, sort of implying that it's not been that difficult, or that she's, other people have faced worse stuff. Believe me, and I don't need to tell you this, Rupert, she'd be out there if she could be. She wants to be out there. They want her to be out there. They are very conscious of the lack of her public face at the moment.
Yes, and she does offer... even the appearances we've seen this year, whether it be the Remembrance Day, Wimbledon, various other occasions. Obviously, the video came out. She did go to Southport with her husband recently, and that's how she connected with some of the families who were involved in that dreadful day, and wants to help them try and get back the love, I suppose. And that's why she's extended the invitation to those families. But it's not easy for her, because every move when she's out there is spotlighted, highlighted, sort of everyone looking to read into the body language, what exactly is going on. So it's not just the physical side and getting better. There's also the mental element of it as well, because she is in the spotlight, and everyone is sort of scrutinizing. As you say, social media can be a bear pit for all and sundry, and we know that, and that's the dark side of it. But she needs and afforded the space, and that's what I think. Seeing her a couple of times this week. We'll probably see her at the Christmas service, I would assume, on Christmas Day, God willing. So, all well, hopefully that she can continue her recovery at her own pace and not feel pressurized into doing things that might set her recovery back in whatever form that takes.
All right. I'm going to say something, Rupert. And I'm going to say something after I have shown you the trailer for the 5-part show, which is produced by Harry and Meghan. It's coming up on Netflix, and it is about the world of polo, and it's imaginatively called Polo.
Imagine going on a horse at 35 miles an hour with someone coming at you at full speed.
The adrenaline that goes through your body, it's addicting.
Polo is not just a sport. Polo is a lifestyle.
A whole bunch of dangerous things that can happen. It's not a motorized vehicle. It's not a car. I have a 1,200-pound animal.
Every day we have to move forward.
I'll do whatever I have to, because at the end of the day, I have to win.
Buckle up, folks. It's only going to get better from here.
When you crank it up to 11, people can't hold on.
Now, what that trailer doesn't also go on to show is like the wives and the girlfriends and the family conflicts and the sort of the wealthy but trashy side of polo. And I, on my YouTube channel and on various other platforms, have absolutely slagged off this show to high heaven, calling it self-indulgent, saying why would a 5-part show on polo be interesting? But I have to say, from the trailer, and from the full 2-minute trailer on YouTube, I'm going to say I am sorry to Harry and Meghan. I am wrong, because I think it looks like it might actually be quite good. What do you think, Rupert?
Polo is incredibly niche. It will be well produced, but can people engage with the story of these multi-millionaires charging around in very sort of various country clubs around America? It's an ego-driven sport. It's a crowded market for these sports documentaries. Ever since Drive to Survive came around, every sport is looking for that way of engaging with a wider public. I just don't feel that because Harry and Meghan aren't going to be featuring it. So actually what you're ending up with, well, we certainly know they produced it from the trailer, which is as big as anything Cecil B. DeMille used to do in his films back in the day, outlining the fact that he was the producer of the film. So you certainly know whose hand is behind it in terms of the story, but it's not Harry really going out on a limb. And a lot of those people who are focused in it, they don't lack for self-confidence. Are we going to be engaged by their stories as they, you hear the clip you just heard of that polo player saying, I've got to win. Well, if you take that statement and put it to any other sports documentary, you'd have exactly that same quote put there. So what's different? Polo is a very expensive sport to run. It's run by people with, an ego that stretches from here to California. I just wonder whether it's going to engage enough with the wider public. I am reading reports suggesting that it probably won't. But if we don't see Harry and Meghan in it, it's just going to be another sports documentary.
And of course, the fact that Harry and Meghan aren't in it might well be the very thing that is seemingly making it interesting. But the longer trailer does focus on the sort of the Made in Chelsea type trash elements that I think make reality shows. And, the fact that they're all dripping in money, yet you've got a father and son polo team on different teams where they're against each other. You've got a trainer who is infuriated by how good looking the player is. You've got the wives and girlfriends who are sort of trashy and dripping in Cartier, yet potentially falling out with each other. So essentially, I think if they move away from the polo element of polo and concentrate on perhaps some of the off polo antics and the trash, to me, I thought, wow, well, if they do that and it becomes a little bit more of a reality show about polo, those are really big. Internationally, they do very, very well. And I just wonder whether if that's their audience, it is actually going to be okay, rather than be just a boring documentary about polo.
You want the real-life rivals, don't you?
Yeah, thank you. You're absolutely correct. That's exactly what I want. That's exactly what I want.
You want real-life rivals. You want it basically to be a sort of Californian bonk buster.
Yes, I want women dripping in diamonds, Cartier and Louis Vuitton, arguing with each other whilst their very handsome guys play polo on the horses nearby. That's what I want. And if it's that, I'm on board, Rupert. You know me so well.
Well, basically, you obviously take on holidays endless Jilly Cooper novels because that seems to be your effect. But I know exactly, there is that element to polo, and I know that is very much the case. It is an ego-driven sport. There's lots of people sort of, in a way, wanting to curry favour with yet another handsome Argentinian polo player who looks like he's just walked off the catwalk. So, I mean, in many ways, it will be interesting to see if it does create a buzz. I'm not holding my breath, but because I think it will be controlled within its instant of its life. But then Made in Chelsea, they're all supposed to be entertainment. But I'm not sure that's entirely what they want, is that kind of contrived reality show. And maybe we'll be proved wrong.
Yeah, and I guess what we're saying here, Rupert, is that it might be a success. This polo documentary might be a success if they don't feature much polo, which perhaps is not what they are going for. And also there's the danger that all the best bits actually have ended up in the trailer, and that 5 hours will be a long. But what I'm saying is I'm going to give it a go. Now, interesting story in the Mail this week, which was about the moment that Prince Harry's Eton friends realised that Meghan would be troubled. They said that she was nuts, and would be that he was nuts rather, and that she was a woke spoil sport, and that essentially that she was princessy and had no sense of humour. I mean, some would say that sounds pretty accurate.
I think that's probably very accurate. Look, this story, people were aware of this story, and he has lost all his Eton friends. And the reason for that, he did like to go to Sandringham and shoot. She obviously didn't like putting on the wellies and going out there and sort of being the dutiful wife who went for shooting weekends with her other half or partners. The Queen extended this weekend and had lots of friends, and probably the Queen thought at the time this was a good way for sort of Meghan to get a feel for some of his friends and what life was like. But she, again, I think, controlled the narrative right from the get-go. Her friends, when you've got your school friends or friends together, the sort of all bets are off in what people say. And Harry, obviously, we've seen him when he was on tour with some of his friends. He got himself into slight complicated situations and amongst his school friends, who obviously is friends through his 20s as well. But it's no surprise, this story, at all. It's confirmation of what many people already knew, that she was you can't wanted Harry as a friend, but sometimes you can't choose their partner.
But I tell you what I think it is, as well as this. I think, and I say this with love because I love America, but I think some Americans are a little bit humourless when it comes to British banter. And, you can imagine Harry and his Eton friends, they're all going to get together. They're all going to be taking the mick out of each other and everyone else and everyone around them. Whereas I think that culture clash, some Americans just don't get that. It's the same when you see about some of the reports when, Meghan used to go up and throw her arms around people in the royal court, and they'd be like, kind of get away, that's not what us in Britain do. And I just wonder, because there's an interesting quote from the Tom Bower book saying that without hesitation, Meghan challenged every guest whose conversation contravened her values. Well, if you're Mickey taking, you don't want someone challenging you because you don't really mean what you're saying, but it's that culture clash, right?
There would have been a culture clash, and I'm sure, she didn't like going shooting, whatever. That might have been part of the culture clash as well. But, she didn't make it easy for Harry's friends to embrace her and take her into the fold. And it didn't, as I say, take too long before that manifested itself, and was probably symptomatic, again, Harry feeling a little isolated, and part of where his world got shrunk, and she didn't help. He had a very close group of friends who were very supportive of him, but we do know it all changed once Meghan took centre stage, and Meghan always wants to be centre stage.
All right, really good to talk to you. Thank you. Rupert Bell talks royal correspondent. Now we've talked to him, we may well talk to you, and we'll hear what you've had to say about some of the big stories we've been covering, and we will do that next live here on Talk.